Hi everyone, today I want to share with you 5 tips to up your video conferencing game. Now I know because of the lockdowns and the pandemic going around, a lot of people are doing more e-meetings on Skype, Zoom, and whatever other platforms that they use to do and hold their meetings between their colleagues or even just chatting with friends. Now, here are the 5 tips that I think that could help you make your video conferencing a lot nicer, okay? Tip number 1, make sure that your camera is at eye level. Now that sounds obvious and a lot of people are used to it, especially those who use phones and tripods, but most people use their laptops to do their video conferencing, and they tend to put their laptop on the table, which is usually lower than your eye level. And what happens is your camera starts showing you with your nose being the main focal point because it's lower than you. So what I usually do is I put a box or some books just to raise the laptop level so that the webcam on that laptop is directly at the same level as my eye, which gives you a much better angle as you're speaking and you're talking. Gives you that really nice TV look, which is what they do in broadcast studios, making sure that the cameras are at eye level and no higher than your forehead. Okay? Tip number 2, audio. Now I know you watch things on Star Trek where you just talk to the wall or the screen and all the audio is perfect. However, in the real world, it doesn't work like that. A lot of devices have this feedback cutoff system. I don't really know what the technical term for it is, but what it does is it cuts off the sound from your speaker from being picked up again by the mic. So if you don't use headphones, it may cut off your voice as well, especially if your voice isn't as loud or softer than that sound that's coming out of your audio. So I always recommend people to put on headphones as soon as there's another person in that call. If you're alone and you're doing live streaming like me right now, fine, you don't need it. But if you do, get regular headphones and speak into the headphones. Now, of course, I'm using something fancy like this. You don't need to waste your money on something like that. But if you do want to have amazing audio, I can't tell you how important it is for some people, especially auditory type listeners, that your audio is clear and crisp and people can hear everything that you're talking. And so I recommend audio to make sure you have at least headphones and not use the inbuilt speaker and mic on your devices, okay? Tip number 3, take notes. Do not interrupt people when they're speaking, even though you have a clarifying question. Wait till everybody's done, or at least the main speaker is done, then raise your hand or that device or that signal that you use on Zoom, and then get everyone's attention and then start listing down the clarifying questions that you have. I recommend that you don't type your notes down, even though you are on a laptop while you're video conferencing, because for some strange reason, there is a look of blankness when I see people doing that. It's not wrong. It's of course more efficient, but I like old school. Gives you a bit more character. Have a pen and a book and write things down as people are writing, because it gives you that motion of looking down and looking up as you're writing, which leads me to tip number 4. Now, I know a lot of you are used to turning off your camera and muting yourself. Now, muting yourself is fine because the background noise is something you don't want to have interrupt someone else speaking. But I know that naturally you feel that it's better that you turn off your camera so that you don't distract people. Well, what about if you just leave the camera on and stay still and pay attention? Pretend you're on television and you're one of the CNN newscasters listening to 5 other people giving their opinions about a subject matter and they're not in the studio with you. You don't see the guy even turning off their cam. The least they will do is look down to their notes, check out the screen, but they will stay as still as possible. And while someone's talking, and this is an active listening skill that I'm taking into the video conferencing era, that ability to pay attention and have eye contact, even though there's no eyes that you're looking at, but the camera lens, it actually gives you that imagery or that effect to the speaker that you're really paying attention to what they have to say, which encourages them to share more and actually feel that you care about what they're saying. All right. Finally, tip number 5, if you do have to speak, make sure you modulate your voice and speak more like a public speaker than someone who's just kind of sitting down on the bed and just mumbling. The last thing you want is to have someone who speaks and not have their voice modulating, because when you talk without having any modulation on your voice, first of all, it's extremely auditorily boring and it makes you sound like you don't really care what you have to say and that you don't really want to put any effort into what you have to share. So I would say that practice more in being able to modulate your voice. And of course, like what I do right now, sometimes I use hand gestures, natural hand gestures, and speak with your hands. It gives you a lot more effect when you are on this video, because remember, video is not like when you're in real life. You need to add that experience of you actually being present with that person, and it's actually a lot harder than meeting people face to face. It is in fact one of the reasons why a lot of people prefer face to face meetings than video conferencing, even though it's a lot more efficient. And it's because it's really hard to really get the other person on video, whether they're really into it or not, or whether they're actually having a good experience. But if you're able to do all these 5 things and actually be able to master your video conferencing game, I assure you that you will appear at least, or be perceived as someone who is really fun and great to have e-meetings with. I hope this has helped you. 5 tips from me to up your video conferencing game. I'll catch you guys next time with more tips and anything else I feel like I could share that may help you in your work or your life. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.